Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're back once again with another amazing science tutorial video. I'm Coach Spivey, joined with my son Jordan Spivey, and in this video tutorial we're going to be going over meiosis. So let's get started. So let's go ahead and talk about chromosome number. And diploid cells contain two complete sets of inherited chromosomes and two complete sets of genes. Diploid cells are body cells. They're also known as somatic cells as well. The diploid number of chromosomes can be represented by the symbol 2n, where 2 represents two sets and n represents the single set of chromosomes found in a sperm or an egg cell. So for example, we all know that the human body has 46 chromosomes, but where do they get that number 46? Well, remember that you get 23 chromosomes from your mom and 23 chromosomes from your dad. So when we say two sets, we're talking about those chromosomes that you get from mom and dad. And remember, you're getting 23 from each of them. When we multiply 2 times 23, that gives us 46 chromosomes. And I'll go ahead and abbreviate it for you. And then if we notice, haploid cells only contain a single set of chromosomes, which means they only have a single set of genes. They contain half the number of chromosomes of diploid cells. The gametes of sperm and egg cells of sexually reproducing organisms are haploid cells. And the haploid number of chromosomes can be represented by the N symbol. So for example, N equals 23 for humans. So let's take a closer look at the difference between diploid cells and haploid cells. If you notice, diploid cells contain two complete sets of chromosomes, and that's where we get that 2n from. Haploid cells contain half the number of chromosomes as diploid cells, and that's where we just get the n by itself from, and they contain only one complete set of chromosomes. And then with the cell division and growth, diploid cells reproduce by mitosis by making daughter cells that are genetically identical. And then with our haploid cells, they come from meiosis, where diploid cells divide to make haploid cells. And the haploid cells merge from the mother and father sex cells for fertilization. And then if some examples of diploid cells are going to be your somatic cells, which are also known as your body cells, which can be blood, bone, muscles, and skin cells. And then for your haploid cells examples, your haploid cells are also known as gametes. And these are the cells that's used in reproductions. So the sperm gamete is going to be for the male, and then the ovogamete is going to be for the female. And then here's a visual representation of diploid cells versus haploid cells. If you notice, diploid cells are going to be genetically identical to the parent cell, so they're going to have the same number of chromosomes. But then if we look at these haploid cells, they have half the number of chromosomes as this parent cell up here. Now let's look at an overview of the phases of meiosis. And this is the process in which the number of chromosomes per cell is cut in half through the separation of homologous chromosomes in a diploid cell. Meiosis involves two phases, which are meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. And by the end of meiosis 2, the diploid cell becomes 4 haploid cells, as you can see right here. Let's take a closer look at meiosis 1. So in prophase 1, each copied chromosome pairs with its corresponding homologous chromosome and crosses over. And crossing over produces new combinations of alleles or traits in the cell. So we take a look at meiosis 1 right here. Here's that process of crossing over. If you notice at the bottom of these homologous chromosomes right here, they're exchanging that genetic DNA between each chromosome. And then if we look at metaphase 1, paired homologous chromosomes line up in the middle of the cell and spindle fibers attached to them. So here's these paired homologous chromosomes that are lined up in the middle of the cell, and then we have these spindle fibers that are attaching to them. And then in anaphase 1, the spindle fibers pull each homologous chromosome paired toward opposite ends of the cell. So that's what we see right here. So these chromosomes are getting pulled in this direction, and then these chromosomes are getting pulled in this direction. Same thing on this side as well. And then we move into telophase 1 and cytokinesis, and the nuclear membrane forms around both sets of chromosomes and the cell splits. So here's that nuclear membrane forming around both sets of homologous chromosomes, and then you see this cell begin to split in the middle. And now we take a closer look at meiosis 2. In prophase 2, chromatids condense into chromosomes and become visible. So that's what we see right here. So we see those chromosomes, they condense those chromatids condense into chromosomes, and now we can see them. And then metaphase 2, once again the paired homologous chromosomes line up in the middle of the cell and the spindle fibers attached to them. So here they are lined up in the middle of the cell, and then here are those spindle fibers attaching to them. And then in anaphase 2, once again spindle fibers pull each homologous chromosome a pair to opposite ends of the cell. So same thing that happened in anaphase 1, they're getting pulled to opposite ends of the cell. And then in telophase 2 and cytokinesis, now the nuclear membrane forms around the 4 sets of chromosomes and the cells split. The end result is 4 haploid daughter cells containing half the DNA of mitosis. So let's take a closer look at that. So here's 1 daughter cell, 2 daughter cells, 3 daughter cells, 4 daughter cells. And now let's look at gametes to zygotes. And the male gamete is the sperm and the female gamete is the egg. The female egg is fertilized by the male sperm, and this fertilized egg is called a zygote, which is the first cell of a new organism. And the zygote goes through continuous mitosis cell division, which eventually forms a new organism. So let's look at the visuals on this. So here's the egg right here, which is the female gamete, and there's that one end right here. And then here's the sperm right here, which is the male gamete, and here's the other end. And then once the sperm fertilizes that egg, we get a zygote, and that's where we get our 2N from. And remember, what we're looking at is a pair of chromosomes coming from mom, chromosomes coming from dad, and that's what we end up getting. That's why we end up getting those 46 chromosomes. And then after the zygote undergoes continuous mitosis, then we eventually have an embryo that is formed. And now let's take a closer look at mitosis versus meiosis. So we'll start off with DNA replication. And DNA replication occurs during interphase before mitosis and meiosis begins, so it's the same for both of them. But if we look at the number of cell divisions, mitosis only has 1 cell division, while meiosis has 2 cell divisions. And then if we look at the synapses of homologous chromosomes, and what we're looking at is the crossing over of homologous chromosomes. And if you notice in mitosis, it does not occur in mitosis, but in meiosis, it occurs along with crossing over between non-sister chromatids in prophase 1. And then the number of daughter cells and genetic composition. In mitosis, there are 2 diploid daughter cells that are genetically identical to the parent cell. But in meiosis, there are 4 haploid daughter cells, each containing half as many chromosomes as the parent cell, so they're not genetically identical. And the daughter cells are genetically different from the parent cell and each other. And then the role in the animal body, if they produce, in mitosis, they produce cells for growth and repair. So just like when we were saying the blood cells, the bone cells, tissue cells. And then if we look at meiosis, they produce gametes and assures genetic diversity in sexual reproduction. And this what helps continues a species of organisms. And then let's take a look at the visual of mitosis and meiosis. So we notice that in mitosis, with the diploid cells, we start with 46 chromosomes. And since mitosis, they're genetically identical daughter cells, they're going to have the same number of chromosomes as the parent cell. But if we look at meiosis, here's that parent cell's diploid has 46 chromosomes, but if we notice at the end, the haploid cells have half that number of chromosomes. So that's where we get our 2N from, and we get our N right here. Now it's time for your check for understanding, and you're going to use your knowledge of meiosis to answer the following questions. You can go ahead and pause the video now. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Coach Spivey, joined my son Jordan Spivey, and I hope this video tutorial of meiosis has been beneficial and helpful. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, once again, have a wonderful, awesome, positive day. Peace.